Well, good evening. My name is Julie McLaughlin. On behalf of the board, we welcome you to our April board workshop. The time is now 6:34 p.m. We are resuming our agenda at agenda item 4. As there is no action to be taken on matters discussed in closed session, we will proceed to agenda item 5, which is public comments. Ms. Taylor, do we have any public comments? All right, with no public comments, we will proceed with our agenda. Our first two agenda items this evening were on topics that were presented and discussed at our last meeting on March 30th. Now that the board has had additional time for reflection and the ability to ask questions, these items will now be up for board action. So agenda item number 6, consider and act on the Lovejoy Excellence by Design strategic plan. So in the interest of an efficient meeting, we have already talked through these materials, so rather than going through another presentation, we'll propose that we move directly to deliberations. So trustees, I'll open the floor for comments on the strategic plan.
I had a couple comments on the future-ready outcomes for the students and really focusing on STEM, which I think is really appropriate, especially where AI is going to take us over the next 2 to 10 years. So I think it's nice that it's flexible, but it's focusing on some of those areas.
I talked about this in the last meeting, but I'm just grateful again for it because it really helps inform our board priorities and our superintendent goals. And tonight, I think, is a great example. We're going to have a pretty extensive technology update, and you can, as a community member, go straight to the target 4.3 and kind of see how that all aligns. So we're already seeing this plan in action tonight. So just wanted to point that out.
I thought this plan did a great job of building on what the community really started, I believe, almost 5 years ago, when we picked this project back up and then refreshed it a couple of years ago, and now taking it to another level. It's an ongoing process, but the community continues to step up and really update and polish this, and now it's in a format that I think is easier to digest with the reformatting, and I really appreciate the work.
I'll just add that I really enjoyed looking through the plan just in how it's organized, because if you really just step back and zoom all the way out, you think about what we're about. Safety is number one. That's the first thing you see in here. Of course, we want our kids, we want our staff members to be safe. Then people, we're about people, we're about excellence in academics. We're about continuous improvement and being that culture of progress here. And just in general, how we communicate with our parents and our community partners and how we are part of our entire community network and fabric. And so I love how you can see our values through how the plan is organized.
I love the organization around the pillars, and I especially paid attention to Pillar 5, which is, parent and community partnerships. It really lists actual measurable ways that we can make sure that we are properly partnering with our parents, and also they know how to partner with us. So I think it's a really good section.
Maybe watching this at home, we have had some good conversation on this plan throughout the year. We've received updates from the Strategic Planning Committee and had a really great conversation in our last meeting about the process that went through and the level of involvement. And so what you're seeing now is just the culmination. So if there's no further discussion, I will entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the updated strategic plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? We will proceed to a vote. All those in favor, please both say aye and raise hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And so to recognize the historic event that this is, we are going to grab does everyone have this?
Everyone has it.
Everyone has a copy of our plan. We're going to come up to the front and take a picture. Thank you, everyone. Agenda item number 7 is to consider an act on the grades 6 through 12 math instructional materials. So we did have this presentation at our last meeting, and so rather than stepping through that again, we can move directly to deliberation. So we'll open the floor for questions and comments.
I did have a question after going through the technology presentation later in the meeting, but since it looks like we are putting some more intentionality around how we're using digital tools, does that kind of impact how we're purchasing the print materials for this, or do we foresee a need that we'll need more print materials?
Well, this includes digital and print materials. What we're finding is the majority of our textbooks are they're provided through digital format, but you do have the option of also have the printing materials in addition to that.
Other questions? Ready to take a motion then?
I have one question. Thomas, can you explain how the EMAT funds work and what percentage of that budget this would represent?
So the EMAT budget is an allocation that is supplemental to what we get through our normal ADA funding and summary finance. That's a 2-year allotment. I'd have to go and look to see exactly how much that allotment is. But we're strategic in how we make sure that we have enough to cover for the 2 years. So I want to say half of it runs about 400,000. I think it's over about, it's close to about roughly 800,000 in a 2-year allotment. I'm not sure exactly what the cost of that is as far as the percentage of that overall allotment, but I don't know if that impacts.
So when we're allocating those funds, we're looking at on a multi-year process, and which courses in this is just slotting into that portion of the budget.
Correct. And we do receive some funds back because one of our textbooks is on the State Board of Education approved, which is our Bluebonnet Math. So we do receive additional funding to our EMAT per student on that, and then also funding to do print copies of that as well too.
Make a motion to approve the math textbook adoption.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor, please both say aye and raise hands.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our next 2 agenda items this evening are presentations. This is for information and awareness tonight and the opportunity to ask questions. Any action that is needed on these items would come forth at a future meeting. So agenda item number 8 is a presentation on the School Library Advisory Council update. Dr. Tinsley.
Thank you. As you recall, the Board of Trustees approved to appoint a School Library Advisory Council, and that was back in the fall. The council is required to meet at least twice a year. We met earlier, we met in November. We did some initial training with our council, and our last meeting was in March. And so what I'm bringing to you tonight is the process that we followed regarding the review of the recommended library materials. So I just want to kind of go through this is part of Senate Bill 13 in the 89th Texas Legislature. So basically it changed how library materials are acquired. And again, you elected to establish, that was a local district decision, a local school library advisory council. And you also reviewed the revisions of the EFB local during the August 25th regular board meeting to appoint the SLAC. This just outlines what the Texas Education Code indicates that aligns to Senate Bill 13. And then just a reminder of the duties of the SLAC is they are responsible for reviewing policies and procedures for the acquisition of our library materials that reflect the local community values. Their job is to propose library materials for acquisition for each grade level of the district or campus, which are being proposed. If needed, agreements with local public libraries and community organizations, the SLAC would work in conjunction with those with any type of partnerships they might recommend. Also, the Slack, if we do have a challenge material, that would now go to the Slack for review, and they would recommend whether that would stay in our collection or not. And then it would, it would come to the board, and they would make that recommendation, what their decision would be regarding that material. So in the past, the challenge material went through a district person, and actually the campus first, then it moved to the district, and then, of course, the Board of Trustees was the third level on that. Just a reminder of our library collection development process, which we've had in place for a few years here in Lovejoy, that I do believe has made a big impact on our overall collection here. I'm not going to read through each of these targets, but it talks about alignment with our standards. Is it also represent the community values? Is it appropriate for a grade level or campus that it's assigned to? And then you'll see on 10 and 11 that we do post the titles on the district website. And that was posted, the list that you received, it was posted in late February, so it's been on the website for over a month and a half. We did include a form on there for community input. That's not required, but we do that with our SHAC committee, and we thought that would be important as well for our Slack as well. And then the committee reviewed on March 24th, the list that you have in front of you tonight.
So is this list the list that they recommend purchasing?
This is the list. So what happens is that we follow the campus librarians. They compile a list, and then they take it to their campus principal. They review the list with the principal. The principal helps determine whether it moves on to the next step, which then it goes to our lead librarian at the high school, Holly Green. She reviews it. Then it comes to me for review, and then we take it to the Slack. Prior to the Slack, it came to, we followed those previous steps. The Slack is an additional step, and then the Slack will be bringing this we bring this to you during the regular April 27th board meeting to approve.
So on this full list on items that are recommended versus not recommended, is that just a final determination by the Slack if it falls into that category?
Yes, the Slack reviewed they reviewed all the titles. They were provided the same information that you're provided on that list, where it talks about the grade band, the reviews, the description of the book. So anything in that the librarians and principals and I review, the Slack reviewed the very same.
There wouldn't be anything on this list that was basically cut out at a lower level,
No.
so to speak. And then other question, you mentioned the link for community feedback. Have we gotten much community feedback through that link yet?
I haven't received any community feedback from the form that we submitted.
So next, you've gone through the layers of librarian review and administrative review. The Slack has looked at it. I can tell by looking at the columns that they're recommending and not recommending certain
Correct.
titles. So the item before the board is to approve the purchase of
Yes.
those. That would be our vote at the next meeting.
At the April 27th board meeting.
Approving the green column, yeah, but nothing in the red column. Okay, that's helpful because this is a lengthy list, so that gives us time to take a look at it between now and yeah, we'll read, Jason's gonna read everyone.
If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me, and also I can loop in the librarians as well too if needed. There was one title that the Slack elected to not move forward, and that was a title that was on an elementary list, and the reason they elected not to move it forward was because they didn't think it was age appropriate. The question was asked, well, could we move that on to the next campus? We wouldn't normally do that because it was not presented by that campus, so it just did not move forward. But I can attest that they did the questions that the Slack inquired, you could tell that they had reviewed the list, they had reviewed the descriptions, they had some great questions. We also have on the committee representatives, Holly Green, our lead librarian, serves on the Slack. We have Michelle Riddle, who is our secondary ELAR coordinator. We also have a school counselor that serves on the Slack as well, and then of course I do. But the only voting members on the SLAC are the parents who are appointed to that.
Trustees, any more questions? Thank you, Dr. Tinsley. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you did? Okay.
I was just going to say thank you to the committee. I think it reinforces our values of parent voice and choice, especially in this area. So, and it's a very long list, so I know it was a Herculean effort. So just thank you to the committee.
Wonderful. Okay, we will move on to agenda item number 9. So Dr. Tinsley, don't go anywhere. We have a presentation that is a technology update.
Okay, let me get through this library book list. All right, thank you. I'm going to ask Chris Mueller to come over to the podium in case you have some specific questions about the devices and the infrastructure, and then also Mr. William will be here to answer any questions regarding funding. Just want to remind you that part of our goals that are included in the superintendent goals and also the district improvement plan do align to the process that we have been following this year to analyze our current state of technology here in Lovejoy ISD and actions moving forward. So if you'll look at the expected result and impact, and this is noted in our district improvement plan, is that our goal is to have improved technology systems, infrastructure, devices, and access for students and staff. So just to kind of give you an overview of the timeline that we've been following, we conducted had a third party come in to conduct a technology comprehensive assessment. You were provided that report earlier this year. And then we also presented that information during one of our regular board meetings. Following that, we facilitated a district technology cohort that was formed for primarily to serve advisory in the form of student and staff devices. So we had teacher representatives from across the district, across varying departments. We wanted to make sure we diversified there. We also included our assistant principals and our principals, and as well as some district staff. I'm coming to you tonight with the presentation of our findings, and then we'll be coming back during the April 27th board meeting to request consideration of approval of the funds. So just a quick summary of what the comprehensive assessment revealed. It was recommended that we develop a 5-year plan with standards, milestones, and life cycles, both devices and our infrastructure. Form the technology cohort, device cohort, define our classroom standards, both for our general classes and also our specialized courses, such as our CTE courses at the high school. How we can better leverage funding sources with E-rate, bond, and grants. Then develop a roadmap for professional development to support our teachers and our students with implementation. Restructuring of the technology department, and then looking at outsourcing options to help our department with efficiencies. So the objective of the cohort was really grounded in how we can improve teaching and learning. It wasn't really centered on, I like this type of device versus another device. It was really, we really didn't even talk about particular devices. We really centered it around what do we want our experiences to be in the classroom for our students and our teachers. As I mentioned, there were representatives across all campuses, and then we focused on removing those barriers related to technology and learning. The findings, pretty consistent and aligns with the assessment that was conducted. Technology is inconsistent. Unreliability with our devices and our Wi-Fi. Challenges due to that, we have interruptions with instruction, and then limited classroom mobility with technology. So what I mean by that, if a teacher is using technology to facilitate instruction in the classroom, many times they're tethered to their desktop because they don't have the ability to move around the classroom and use technology in that way. Same thing with our students sometimes. If our devices are not staying charged, then students are having to plug their devices in the classrooms, and it kind of tethers them to that area. So the recommendations from the cohort, and this is what they were saying teachers need, and these are non-negotiables they're recommending, is that our staff and student devices have improved battery life. Wi-Fi is reliable and seamless. Devices work every time, and that, again, the ability to move freely around the classroom to facilitate learning using technology. Ideal state for our classroom technology, we want it interactive, engaging for our students and our teachers. We want it balanced. We don't want everything driven totally digitally. We want it balanced to where students have the opportunity for hands-on, more traditional type of responding rather than just digital. Ability for students to collaborate, create, and think critically. And then it's teacher-led, not technology-led. So overall, coming out of the group is that we believe it's not a substitute for paper and pencil. So you're not taking technology and it's basically it's just taking the place of paper and pencil. It's a shift in how we engage students and staff with knowledge. And the objective is that we're using the tools to empower the learning. And then technology is used with intention, and it moves the learning experience beyond the walls of the classroom. So we're going to go over 3 parts here. We're going to cover the staff device recommendation, the student device recommendation, and then the infrastructure update. So talking about the justification, when we talk about the need for updating our staff devices, again, there's concern in the cohort group. It does not support where the teacher can be mobile around the classroom, move about, check on students as they're using technology. We noted here that our current Windows devices are out of warranty, a high percentage. We also feel like that increasing quality of that we're implementing device standards that will improve the quality of instruction and delivery of professional development. And then consolidating our staff devices will allow for improved focus on providing a higher quality device while reducing technology overhead. So this is what we are, the considerations that we're bringing forward is that we consolidate devices by removing the desktops that we currently have, our workstations that we currently have. And also all of our teachers have laptops and replacing those laptops. So what you're seeing here is that you're seeing a 27-inch docking monitor. And then the teachers would have a touchscreen and tablet mode. So it's a traditional laptop, but it just flips into a tablet. And that can be plugged in with one cord, so you're not having a great number of cords and using up quite a bit of space. The battery life projected for these devices is projected to be 20+ hours, which I think will be a significant win with our staff. Allocation to non-teaching staff. There will also be, depending on the role and responsibility of that non-teaching staff, it would determine if they would receive the same type of laptop, touch screen or tablet as the regular classroom. And then the BenQ interactive displays would serve as the presentation devices. Right now, that is what we put in at Willow Springs, the BenQ display boards that we replaced this spring. That you approved funding for, and currently the teachers have those, and we purchased a tablet so that they could move about the room and utilize it in that way. So we're recommending that we just stay with that to minimize the number of devices that we're having to support. So you can see a photo of it right here. This is the top picture shows you how it would be docked, and then you'll see the tablet being used as well. So when we look at financial impact, that would be at a Prop B, and based on our current quotes, the estimated cost for the 2-in-1 laptop tablet and the 27-inch docking monitor, we're estimating $646,364, and that's our estimate. That's based on our current quotes. Then looking at the ThinkPad 27-inch docking monitor, estimated cost would be $102,726. And then when we're looking at the receptionist areas, clerks, the monitor estimated cost about $60,000. So overall, the estimated cost to replace all of our staff devices throughout the district, we're estimating a little over $800,000. Questions about staff devices? Okay, student device updates. Again, this is an area of frequent concern with the reliability of our battery life in our student devices. Currently, we have 42% of the Chromebooks are due for a refresh based on our 4-year device cycle, life cycle. In 27-28, 64% will be due for a refresh. And if we can upgrade to a next generation Chromebook, we believe that will improve our reliability, battery life, and overall student experience. So when we're looking at devices for our students, we're recommending we stay with the Chromebook for our students. That would be for grades 5 through 12. We would not change our current model that we have a 1-to-1 for those grade levels. They would be touchscreen, and that was feedback that we received from the cohort as well. And some of our applications do have the option of touchscreen as well that our students are accessing. These new devices have a much more durable outer shell, which will help us with damaged devices. And again, the battery life, as you can see, was significantly increased. And then when we're looking at pre-K through 4, we're looking at the Chromebooks as well, but maybe a little less costly device because they would not have to run as many programs as, and we would not be sending those home with our students. But again, we added that touchscreen option, and then you'll see the battery life is just a little less than, it's 12 plus hours. We would implement a steady device refresh cycle and then reallocate our working devices to campuses not included in the initial refresh. So just to give you an idea of what we're considering at this time is that for the first year is that we would replace the Chromebooks at Lovejoy High School with an estimated cost of $702,000. Year 2, we would roll out new devices to Willow Springs and Sloan Creek with an estimated cost of $543,000. And then year 3 would be Hart and Puster with an estimated cost of $478,000. So total cost over a 3-year period, $1,724,879. So questions about student devices? All right, now to our displays, as I mentioned, our outdated, the projectors at the high school are outdated. They're in similar shape as the Willow Springs projectors were. So that is, those devices would, we believe, would make a difference in the way that teachers can facilitate learning in those classrooms. It would definitely modernize and improve instruction facilitation. Also help with efficiencies for the department to support and maintain the devices over time. So that's what we're recommending for the high school. And as you can see, there's a photo of one here. Chris, what's the size of these devices? Can you remind me, are they 63? No, 86, okay. So pretty good size device. And so we would, oh, there it is right there on the screen. Replace projectors at Lovejoy High School with the B&Q interactive displays. It would increase standardization across the districts. And then for non-standard spaces with projectors, we would have to just customize what that might look like. So you may have an area that you may need it on a cart versus mounted on the wall. So we would just accommodate based on the design of that classroom. And our current campuses with the smart boards here would eventually be replaced with B&Q is what we're thinking. So we have consistency and a standard across the district. Financial impact on that would be for next year if we installed in 87 Lovejoy High School classrooms, that would be an estimated cost of $403,740.
Lori, I've got a question. So this would not include the K through 4?
Not the
They're
first
okay for
year.
right now?
Not the first year. We felt
Okay.
like the campus that had the greatest need at this time was the high school. And again, we kind of want to make sure we're in a refresh cycle to where we're not having to replace everything at once. I mean, we could go, but again, we would not have that ability to have a refresh cycle. And then network infrastructure, we've mentioned here about that much of the networking infrastructure is reaching its end of life. This is a very common concern that we have from our campuses, is just the ability of the connectivity and the stability of our network. So another area here is that we feel like we can effectively utilize our E-rate category funding. And if we do that, we can achieve a complete refresh of all network infrastructure at a discounted rate. So when we're looking at that, is that if we use the E-rate category 2 for a portion of this refresh, that would help us. So covering the remaining refresh from the 2026 E-rate category 2 bid, it's based on the 2630 E-rate funding cycle. So both of these bids would include the cost of project management, configuration, and installation at a discounted rate. And again, it would help us maximize some of our federal funding that we have accessible through E-rate. So overall, what you can see the savings if we took this route, it would save the district approximately $488,918 if we used our E-rate. So you can see in '25 what our E-rate category bid was, so it would, and then '26.
Are we going to try to time out any of this with the renovations of the campuses?
Yes, yes. So, well, this would be, when we're talking, say that again.
Like, for instance, like with Hart, since it's fixing to go under renovation, are we going to do it at the same time? Is that, so nothing gets damaged?
So there's a complication with the E-rate funding in that you have to have it installed in a set amount of time after you make the purchase. The 2025 bid that we have, but we didn't pull the trigger on before, we would have to have it installed by September to be in legal compliance. The 2026 bid, we would have until September of next year to install. Otherwise, we risk losing out on federal funding. So that impacts on when we can actually do the project. But we can definitely try to tie it into the refreshes.
That makes sense.
Now, this is a replacement of the equipment. It's not necessarily functionally the wiring, that infrastructure. That would be a part of the renovation.
Yes, the cabling will definitely be a part of the renovation. This doesn't touch any of the cabling. It's just the equipment, the APs, the switches, and everything that falls out.
Okay, and then from a technology standard, we're trying to time this correctly with the laptop purchases so that they're talking the same fast rate. Because that's part, people complain about, hey, the Wi-Fi isn't working, may not be working fast enough, and that kind of thing. So timing that together, okay. So this would modernize some of the Wi-Fi access points. Okay.
We also built in a little bit of extra capacity, so we're going to be able to fill in some gaps. Like there's a few blind spots or dead zones at the high school. The other campuses will have extra. We can fill in those gaps as well.
Yeah, and that was based upon that report that our technology consultant ran around and measured
Yes.
all those. So you're hitting those red zones?
Yep.
Okay.
So overall, financial summary with Prop 1, which is primarily your infrastructure and classroom AV, and total of, you can see the total there. And then the Proposition B, which are primarily the devices. You can see the over a 3-year period of the estimated budget. And again, we've accounted for any inflationary growth and device attrition with this quote as well.
Lori, I keep going back to the sentence on our kind of objectives. Our objective is to transition from instructional technology to learning technology. After all the work and the feedback from the cohort, do we have some specific examples where that transition, parents could see that, or we would see that kind of an instructional delivery as we consider this?
I believe when we talk, one of the areas that really was lifted up is the gap in professional development and the reliability of our devices as well. So I do think a lot of that lies into the professional development. So as you noted that restructuring of the technology department, that was one of the reasons behind that, is that we would have a dedicated position that would provide the training, not just on the devices, but also instructional technology and how it appropriately integrates into learning in the classroom.
I would say from a device standpoint, you are also going to see that in the recommendation to make sure that the devices allow the teacher to move around the classroom rather than be tethered to their desk. Right now, we don't have that functionality, which is keeping the teacher glued to their desktop and proximate to the front of the room, rather than moving around and being able to use proximity and engage with the students while they're engaging with the technology. And so these devices are strategically chosen to make sure we're focused on that teacher-led, high-level engaging instruction. And we think this will be a big upgrade to the flexibility that the teachers need and the support they need to be able to do that.
That delivery is going to be distinguished between the lower grades versus the upper grades in terms of how they use that technology and how they walk around the room and do that instruction.
Correct.
Right, okay.
And dependent on the learning objective at that point in time. And as Dr. Tinsley shared, there will be strategic points in time in any classroom, and very much should be, where there's not technology in use or in the hands of our students. And so kind of taking that back to our strategic plan, target 4.3, I think really eloquently outlines that we know we need to strengthen our technology ecosystem in all of our classrooms and make sure we have that reliable infrastructure, the devices, the professional learning, as Dr. Tinsley mentioned, equipping our students to be able to learn and teach at high levels. But what is also equally as important is that we have to have that professional learning that is going on for our teachers, and our approach has to be developmentally appropriate, instructionally sound, and we have to balance digital technology and non-digital student learning experiences as well, keeping in mind student learning, student well-being, meaningful engagement, and then that high-quality instruction.
Just a compliment to the team and the execution of our strategic objectives here. It's an exciting opportunity for our kids and our teachers and our team to do this. One of the more exciting things I've done since I've been on the board, because it's really going to make a big impact on the experience in the classroom, especially, well, in a lot of areas, not just in one. So I could name a lot, but I was thinking about the displays in the high school, but it's, you think about that in every setting here with each one of these components that we're able to make application to with these products. So great job with the strategic planning, identifying the need, and then executing deliberately and in a resourceful manner.
And I would say we are committed to balance in the classroom. Again, as I mentioned, you don't want it too heavy. Keep in mind, like I said, many of the resources are digital. And our testing platforms are all digital now, the state testing platform. So we're working with teachers on balancing that. But again, I think a lot of this goes back to training and support that we can provide our teachers as they're planning instruction.
Yeah, I didn't want to just ask questions. I wanted to say thanks. I love the fact that y'all created the cohort. Much like what Barrett said, just to reiterate what he was saying and just emphasize that this was not done in a vacuum. This was not top down. Y'all had a cross-section of the teachers and principals and the administrative staff to make sure that this was going to work for all of those populations.
I would echo that as well. I think it's a very proactive approach. I think it's a national conversation right now. There's lots of states considering what's happening with technology in the classroom, and so to already have a cohort in place that's evaluating the intentionality in which we use that, I think we'll be prepared for whatever comes down from our state legislature in the future. So I appreciate having the conversation now so that we're prepared.
And we see an opportunity, and some of our curriculum documents have it naturally integrated, but we feel like we can make those more robust for our teachers to know what would be appropriate and some options that they could use when they do integrate technology in the classroom.
All right, I got one more question, sorry, and I'll let you guys go. So warranty-wise, in terms of break fix, are we gonna stock some of these things? Are they going to be available, both digital monitors, or the display units and stuff like that? So in case something just goes away, we can do a quick fix?
Yeah, absolutely. So all those figures have a little bit of a cushion built into it, probably about 10% just to cover extra needs. So we've accounted for that. We've also had additional warranties added in. So the quotes for the staff devices have a 3-year on-site warranty. The Chromebooks, we're going to be continuing our Acturity device protection plans to be able to have those repairs quickly too. And then we'll have extra on hand to replace if we need to.
Yeah, I imagine the student devices get a little more of a beating than the, just a little bit, okay.
The ones, and perhaps at the April 27th, or if you wanted to see some of the devices that we're looking at, the ones that we are looking at for Chromebooks are much more durable than what we currently have, so.
Sorry. And weight-wise, did they get a little bit lighter?
I mean, I would say they're probably on par. 'Cause I mean, they do have a thicker shell.
Thicker shell, yeah.
So there's a cost for that.
Mhm. And the cohort, they were actually able to touch, feel all of these. We had multiple devices out that they were able to see, as well as the teacher workstations as well too. Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So our next two agenda items are board organizational items. Agenda item number 10 is consideration and possible action on the process for filling the Board of Trustee Position 3 vacancy. So I'll begin with some background information, and then we will go through the discussion. So as our community is already aware, the board currently has a vacancy in Position 3. At our last meeting, we accepted the resignation of Trustee Jeff Wood as his family is relocating outside of district boundaries. We also had the opportunity to recognize him for his service and his impact to Lovejoy ISD. Texas law and board policy, BBC Legal, addresses the process and requirements around board resignations and vacancy. So I'll quote from the policy. If a vacancy occurs on the board, then the remaining board members may fill the vacancy by appointment until the next trustee election, or may order a special election to fill the vacancy. If more than 1 year remains on the term, which in this case it does, the vacancy shall be filled not later than the 180th day after the date of the vacancy occurs. So we have placed this item on our workshop agenda today in order for the remaining board members to have time to discuss and consider the best go-forward path. So I have received some questions from the community on what we're going to do, and so you have arrived at the right time because we have just accepted the resignation, and this is the first time that the board is meeting to discuss these items. So our options in front of us today are either to elect to use a special election process, we can elect to use an appointment process, or we can choose to take no action and just continue the discussion at future meetings. So with that, I will open the floor for each of our trustees for comments and for questions.
I got a couple comments. I think there's pros and cons on each method. I think on the appointment method, I think it's a good process for the new trustee could get involved with the goal setting. They'd be able to go to the SLI and the training, and then within less than 12 months, they'd be running, and the community would decide if they approve their job or not. An election, the term would be 18 months, and they get to hear from the entire community their concerns and understand what each person's goals are for the district. And I think an election cycle, the community decides then. And so I think it's kind of torn on which side.
I'll agree with Mark that it's not a obvious, straightforward, right or wrong way to approach this. We do have precedent in this community of going through, whenever there have been vacated board seats, through an appointment process. think the last, at least 3 times, there was a vacated seat. We utilized the appointment process versus the election process here in Lovejoy. And I think the thinking around that, the way I understand it, and my thought process currently is that there are definitely some pros, like Mark mentioned, to filling that seat sooner rather than later. Our next opportunity, if we went through the election process, would not be until the November election. We're in April, so we're talking about 7 months with an open seat. That's a long time to not have someone be a part of the goal-setting process, everything we're going to do over the next 7 months as a board. I think if we continue the precedent that has been previously used with going through an appointment process, if we try to make it an open process, have it be something that we can make sure we're using a framework that we're trying to fill the seat in a responsible manner as a board. I would kind of lean towards the precedent that's been set previously and following that process to fill the seat sooner rather than later. And then knowing that whoever's willing to apply and take that seat is almost immediately going to have to start thinking about campaigning for the election the following May. Because just because they're appointed to this seat, they're only appointed for less than a year. Then they have to be reelected by the community at that point. So I think balancing the pluses and minuses, that's the way I'm thinking about it. But I do recognize that we have a lot of responsibility as a board to fill that seat with someone who's going to be thinking about the community and doing it for the right reasons and thinking about all the kids here in our district that are going to be ultimately impacted by the decision.
So Jason, you're thinking something along an application process like was done before?
I'm thinking about, yes, similar to the last 2 times when there was a open application and then we as a board go through a process to fill the seat. In my mind, almost like I'm thinking about it, it's not technically an interim position, but it's almost like an interim position because that person's going to be then required to run in the following May's election.
I also think that if that person applies and this is not what they thought it was, there's an easy off-ramp for that, and there's an election coming up. So once you do apply, to the extent it's right for you, you get to do it again immediately, and do it every 12 months until that term is up for that term reelection. So it's not only 1 election in 12 months, it's 2. I think it gives adequate opportunity for them to, 1, understand the role that they thought it might be, and 2, for the community to have a say at some point in the future. I also think it serves the best interest of the kids, getting someone in and getting them acclimated as quickly as possible, which is ultimately why we're here, to serve kids and our team and our community. There's no perfect process, and I certainly respect that as well. I do know that the campaign piece and hearing from the community is a very purifying process, or for lack of better terms, and I don't discount that. But I always try to trump my thoughts in what's best for our kids first, and I think getting to work with what those priorities are for the kids is number 1 for me. So I would probably lean towards the appointment process, but I certainly respect this board and whatever we decide.
This is a difficult decision for me, being the newest. I can certainly agree with the benefit of coming on and being a part of the training and getting to set the priorities and the goals. That is an extremely important part of what we do and sets the tone for the year. I also can't discount the irrefutable value of an election process and that the community, it's a passionate community. I think Purifying Experience puts it well. It was one for me, but I think I came out of it a better trustee because I was able to engage with the community. It creates an investment from the community and an accountability that can't be recreated in the appointment process, in my opinion. So that keeps resonating with me. But as Barrett said, we we make our decision, and then whatever goes forward, we do as a team. And I know that we'll be able to get someone in the seat that's going to do what's best for kids. I just, right now in this moment, what's resonating with me is very much the benefit of the community having the stake in who serves in the role.
I think in terms of, whether it's someone that appoint, as long as this appointment process is, going to be efficient, we get them into this same cycle as the other May trustees that have come into the board. They're going to get to experience some of the main work that we do. Is a lot of it happens over the summer, some of the goal setting and especially some of the training, because a new trustee has quite a bit of training to do. And so we offer that. A lot of that is offered at SLI, where we're all together and we can talk about and discuss training type oriented activities. And so if we wait and do an election in November, which is the next next election that's run by the Collin County Election Office, that process, they'll miss all that process, and then they will come in November, and then you kind of have this December, which is kind of a little bit of a break. And so it really kind of, in my opinion, starts at a little bit of a disadvantage. Being the only one on the board that was elected in November, I'm basically letting you know from experience. So for me right now, I would like to get that trustee in, get them trained, get them a part of the process, and be a participant, having 7 full board members as a participant in the process. As long as we're, I think, doing a high-quality job of vetting the candidates, I think we can accomplish both. And again, just remind everybody, they will be running again that next May.
I agree. I don't know that there's much I can add that each of you haven't said, but I'll repeat just so I've made my voice too. I can really put this through my own experience. I also ran an election, a contested one. I absolutely would say it was a purifying experience. I am a better trustee because of that. I absolutely developed a thicker skin that I probably needed. And it's always been important to me for the voters to have a choice. It's always been important to me, even personally as a voter. But I also cannot discount my experience joining the board in a May-June timeframe. That June period is critical to be able to understand the goal setting for the coming year, the budget for the coming year. All of our organizational processes take place over the summer. And a first-year trustee is responsible for an extended amount of training hours. It's very difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult to get those hours without going through the opportunities that are made available to trustees in the summer. And so as I kind of weigh those options too, it's very impactful to me that the seat would be open for 6 months. I think that means that 6 months that there's not a voice. And we do very much rely on all 7 voices. The election would take place in November versus our usual May. Definitely the November election is with state level and federal level offices has a different discourse than it does sometimes during the May. And it would be really important to me that our community felt that they were part of it whichever way. So if we do pursue an appointment process, then I'm going to reiterate some of the comments that were already made, that we need to lean into communication and transparency so that everyone feels a part of that. And I realize now that I'm hearing us talk, maybe I should step back and also share with the community some key dates. So should we pursue an election process, that the only available option to us is the November general election, which is November 3rd of 2026. I think potentially in the past, school districts might have had an opportunity to set other special election dates. I don't recall the exact fact, but that we no longer have that option. So it would only be November. Should we pursue an appointment process, then the board would be able to move at a pace, either at expedient pace, as long as we fill the seat within 180 days. And I think maybe also to reiterate, if they are elected in November, they would serve 18 months for the unexpired term. If they are appointed at any point during this process, they can only be appointed temporarily until the next May election. So we'd be looking at roughly an 11th month term. And then that appointee would, should they choose to run again, would have to run in May of '27 and May of '28 until the seat is back on its normal cycle. So, any further comments?
Can we discuss?
Yeah, that's fair. And I think this is timely, Mr. Owens, because I actually have received a question from the community on that. And so in Lovejoy ISD, all of our seats are at-large seats, which means we serve the community as a whole. We do not represent individual municipalities or different types of student groups or different types of community groups or other types of special interests. And in fact, board policy, our board ethics that we are required to comply with say that we will choose the best interest of all students in our district. And that's something that anyone that serves in this seat has to be aware of that component of service. So as a district, we are unusual in that we don't encompass really the majority of any one city, really. We cover components of multiple cities and utility districts and even components of unincorporated Collin County. So any person if we were to choose an election process or an appointment process, either one, the eligibility requirements are the same. And I think importantly, we don't set those as a board. They're established under Texas law for eligibility to serve, and the requirement is just that you're among other things of being a U.S. citizen and that sort of thing, is that you live within district boundaries, and anyone within district boundaries would be eligible.
So this is an area where the state still gives us some control over the process. And I think that that's meaningful, that we can deliberate and try to figure out what's best for us in this community to set our board and honestly to set up a new trustee for the possibility of success with training opportunities and the different things that are available, and to help us get someone into the seat sooner rather than later. So given all of those positives, recognizing that it's not a perfect situation and that there's obvious benefits to having the community decide who's in that seat immediately, but that's not an option that's open to us right now. So the option to fill the seat sooner is the appointment process, and I would move stipulating that we use an open application process similar to what we've done most recently to start that appointment process.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional deliberations? All right, so an aye vote would be in favor of appointment. A nay vote would be in favor of either election or tabling, I guess. Okay, all right. All those in favor, please say aye and raise hands.
Aye.
Mr. Owens, where are you? Are you up? You
Say
are,
aye.
okay. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
We have 2 nays. All right. So, and Ms. Taylor, were you able to get the voting? Okay. So with a vote of 4 to 2, we will be electing to pursue an appointment process. Is that agreeable? So thank you, board, for some of the comments earlier on the fact that regardless of what the vote is, that we will proceed forward as a team and call back to our mission as a board, which is just doing the very best thing that we know to do for this district. So, you know, as one of our stated priorities as a board is to prioritize transparency and communication. Therefore, with support of the board, we will send a communication to all Lovejoy parents tomorrow with this information so that they are up to date. And I will kindly ask Ms. Cordell's office to assist us with adding information to the district's website, social media channels, and connect with Katie newsletters. And so with an appointment process, there's no definitive timeline, but I can share just from a directional that I would anticipate that the board would would proceed with receiving and evaluating applications in the April and May timeframe, with the goal of pursuing the appointment process in the June timeframe. Again, prioritizing the goal setting and training process that we do as trustees in June. All right. Thank you, board. We'll move on to agenda item number 11, which is a discussion of the 26-27 Board of Trustees meeting calendar. So I'll open by saying this is consistent with our typical practice. We set an annual calendar for board meetings and workshops. I wanted to say thank you to Ms. Taylor for drawing up the draft calendar that you have in front of you today. So just to give you some high-level points is that it's roughly the same calendar and workshop that we have typically had in the past. There's actually one fewer workshop. So this year for the 25-26 year, we had an additional workshop in August. Just with all of the changes from the legislative session, we needed that. The future year would not have that, so we dropped that August workshop. So beginning in July, we'll come back for a board meeting, which is the same timing that generally our staff reports back to prepare for school. In the fall semester, we have our monthly board meeting, and there's only one board workshop. And then in the spring semester, we have our monthly board meetings with 4 board workshops, which primarily support our budget development. There's also 2 dates on there with proposed Team of 8 training sessions. So I know as a board, we've discussed in the past that we prioritize not just having a meeting to have a meeting, and we want to be respectful of our district administration's time that they prepare for those meetings. But we're also mindful, and Mr. Wheelis reminds me regularly, that we do not want long meetings that last till midnight. So we want to have efficient meetings. So this calendar that's in front of you is attempting to find that balance.
Can we put a time on the, estimated time on the?
I like the discussion, so. Okay, any other comments or questions on the meeting dates and times?
I had one conflict, but I went ahead and emailed that to y'all.
Mr. Wheelis let me know that July 28th for the Team of 8 was not workable for him. And so wanted to see if the board had availability like that Thursday, the 30th, or just sometime, not the Tuesday. What was your conflict, Tuesday and Wednesday?
Out-of-town board meeting.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. What are the dates? The 30th for that Team of 8 meeting? Is that fair? Is that okay with you? Okay, we'll take a look at that. Any other conflicts? No. Okay. I know our calendars fill up, so this is trying to get on there first before the other things got going on. Okay. We don't need a motion tonight, no. So, okay, so this is for your awareness availability. If you please take this home and look at your calendar, and then we would add it to a future board meeting to consider an act. And I'll ask Ms. Taylor to help me move that Team of 8. Make sense? All right. So thank you.
Is there any way too we can get Roderica to go ahead and send us,
all the meeting
reserve these,
notices?
just reserve these dates? Because
I think if you
they're-
ask her nicely, I think
they're
she
going to
will.
start filling
There
up.
she goes.
Perfect.
Meeting notices. Wonderful. All right, let's move to announcements because I have a time limit from Mr. Wheelis to end this meeting. Agenda item number 12 for superintendent announcements.
Yes, prior to this meeting, board, you know that we had the exciting opportunity to attend the PTO Service Awards, where our wonderful PTO recognized both employees and parents and community members that go above and beyond to make a significant impact on our students and our schools. We are so grateful for our PTO and all of their efforts, as well as the time they take to honor these amazing people with this recognition annually. So thank you, PTO. Also, parents, a reminder, your intent to return forms are open. If you have not completed that, you will keep getting reminders. My family may have gotten a couple that my husband reminded me of. I'm proud to say I took care of it last week. It is so important to us that you fill those out. That is how we begin the planning process for the 26-27 school year, including staffing of teachers. So please, please, please get that completed so we know that you will be back in Lovejoy with us and that we can plan for your student to have an outstanding educational experience. We've got a lot of testing going on. We've got STAR testing, we've got EOCs, we've got AP testing. So thank you to all of the teachers, the counselors, the testing coordinators that are working so hard to facilitate that process. And I know our students are working hard at that as well. Exciting this week, we have the Majestics Showcase, which will be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. It is always an incredible performance with some great music, so we would love to see you there. And then we also have something very exciting this week at our Lovejoy Child Development Center. We have a tour, an open to the community tour on Wednesday night, April 15th from 5:30 to 6:30. We would love to have you there so that you can see some of the great things that are happening at our Child Development Center. And that tour coincides with the opening of our registration process. So we'd love to see you here at our LCDC on Wednesday evening.
Thank you, Ms. Cordell. So Ms. Cordell mentioned that earlier this evening, prior to our meeting tonight, the board did have the pleasure and privilege of attending the PTO's Outstanding Service Award ceremony. And so if you're not familiar with this event, this is where each of our Lovejoy campuses is blessed with an active and talented PTO organization. They plan events, they support our teachers, and they do so much more. And this is their highest honor of award that they grant to one of their own and then also a parent or community member. And so on behalf of the board, we are so grateful for this exceptional group of volunteers whose time, energy, and generosity helps to strengthen the student experience here in Lovejoy ISD. We thank the PTO for their continued partnership, and we congratulate the 2026 PTO Outstanding Service Award recipients. Our next board meeting will be on Monday, April 27th. We will be recognizing our 2025-26 Leadership Lovejoy class. We will be continuing on with budget workshop 7, 8, 9, or 10. I forget where we're at, Thomas. And then we will also likely have some news bond update. And so with that, we will be adjourned. Thank you.